just crazy. Anyway.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's 1:30 on the 6th of March. I'd like to open up the Board of Adjustments meeting. Can we get a determination of quorum, please?
Rob Pierce,
Present?
Don Christensen,
Present.
Peter Gashan,
Present.
Kathy Julian. Leo Harishni is absent. We have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. Will you all please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? You want to do it?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we please have the ethics law and announcements?
Yes, Board of Adjustment members are reminded that with respect to any matter or any person coming before the board today, you've received a gift or a loan, you have a pecuniary interest, you have a commitment in a private capacity such as family, employment, business, or similar relationship, or if you've provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered, you must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. You must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it's clear the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Board members are also reminded that under the Board of Adjustment rules, if you've had any contact outside this meeting with any person interested in a matter coming before the board, you need to disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting. Additionally, this meeting is being held in a hybrid fashion, including a Zoom link. If you would like to attend this meeting via Zoom, please log in using the link found on the agenda. You can also join the meeting by typing zoom.us, clicking join a meeting, and entering meeting ID 872-1567-5749. Alternatively, this meeting can be joined via phone by dialing 1-669-900-9128 and entering meeting ID 872-1567-5749 and pressing the pound sign. For those wishing to provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise hand feature during any public comment period. To provide public comment via phone, press *9 to raise hand and *6 to mute unmute.
Wonderful, thank you. Can we please have the appeal procedures? Mr. Bronzik?
Yes. Most decisions rendered by the Board of Adjustment are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Board of Adjustment and qualify as an aggrieved person or party, you may appeal in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed with the Secretary of the Board of Adjustment, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed, in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-3610 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up public comment. Do we have any general public comment?
At this time, there is no general public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
Okay. I'll close public comment. With that, moving on to item number 6, approval of today's agenda. At this present time, I don't have any official changes. Can I get a motion to approve as accepted?
Kathy Julian, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Yep. Do I have a second?
For the record, Don Christensen, I second that.
Sorry to interrupt.
But
Wasn't there a modification on the agenda for today, item 8C?
I was advised to wait until it was actually, yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Item number 7, approval of the February 6th draft minutes. I don't have any changes. Did anybody else have any changes? I assume everybody's looked at it. Can I get a motion?
Peter Gashan, for the record, I move to approve the February 6, 2025 minutes.
Okay, and I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Moving on, item number 8, public hearing items. 8A is amendment of case conditions, case number WAC 25-0001, the lodge for WAD MIN 18-0009. It's for hearing, discussion, and possible action to approve an amendment of conditions for an administrative permit case number WAD MIN 18-0009 to amend a previous approval for a wine coffee bar classified under liquor sales on premises use type. The request is to amend operating hours to May through October, Tuesday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and November, April, Tuesday through Sunday, 6 to 9 p.m., and also to allow live music on the outdoor lower patio during May through November, Tuesdays through Sunday, 4 to 8 p.m. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to repeat all that. It's a little confusing with the different days and so forth. But there is a request to change the originally approved administrative permit. And it's primarily moving the hours and the dates. Oops. So just to, this is wrong. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go on. So this is the, So this is the village, the lodge layout. You can see where the parking is highlighted in yellow, and then the existing building, and then it shows a little bit where the outdoor area is, and I'll show that in a further slide. And as was stated, the Board of Adjustment approved the administrative permit August 2nd, 2018, and it was just approving the wine bar, which is a special use, is a use that required a special administrative review. And then they got approved for certain hours, which were 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. So the applicant's now asking to change those times. So they're asking through May to October to be open Tuesday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then November through April to be open Tuesday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So there's a little bit change on the hours on Tuesday through Sunday. And then the facility will be closed on Mondays. And then they're also requesting to allow outdoor music on the patio during the times May through November, sort of the warmer months, Tuesday through Sunday, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. This request includes that outdoor music, and that their applicants saying that they only have small groups, trios, and no loud rock music. However, the conditions of approval are requiring no amplification, and then no more than trios or the rock music, and no rock music. Here is where the outdoor patio is, and you can see where the main building is. And then these are some pictures I just took recently with the snow on the ground. The one on the left is the patio where they're proposing to have the music, and the one on the right is just a little above that patio, and then the building is to the right. Staff is conditioning not to allow the amplification primarily because of previous code violations, and I've listed them there, and they all include music issues. And then also neighboring property owners have voiced concerns about the loud music. There was the item was noticed to properties 500 feet from the site. 121 notices were sent out. I want to take that back. I have received emails as of today, and I believe you all have received those through our administrative people. And so I have received emails, and I did receive some phone calls. So various agencies and departments have reviewed this request, and if they had concerns, they're included in the conditions of approval. Staff can make all the findings. I provide a possible motion, and this is not the right motion. Oops, so it is, excuse me. No, it's not. I apologize for that. Yeah, it's in your staff report. I don't know what happened here. Anyway, and I'm available for any questions, and I believe the applicant's here for any questions too. And so the applicant does not have a presentation. Okay. They are just available for questions.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant or planner at this time?
I do.
Okay.
Kathy Julian, for the record. The complaints about the noise, was it about music that had been amplified?
Yes,
Those-
there was a period of time where the the applicant was not aware that they couldn't have that amplification, is my understanding. They probably could explain that better, but I believe there was a period of time that they were not aware of that requirement, that they couldn't have the amplified music, and that's when the complaints were
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions right now? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Julie? That's fine. Peter Gishon for the record. I was kind of curious, looking through the packet that you put together, is there a specific Washoe County Code section that discusses the standards by which outdoor live music should be judged? Amplification, distance from residential parcels, things of that sort?
Julie Olander for the record. The noise, our section of noise is fairly brief, and so there's a line in there. The requirement basically is talking about music that's going on for a long period of time. So we don't have a real strong noise ordinance in a sense. Most of noise is enforced by the sheriff's office, and so the sheriff is typically called on this. However, this was also called into our code enforcement people. And so that is when I believe the applicant was made aware of that they couldn't have outdoor music or they couldn't have amplified music. And that's when they turned around and applied for this administrative or this amendment of conditions.
So there's no code that we're looking to guide us?
It's very brief, and it's for a long period of time. So you have to, it's more set up for like industrial uses, that if they go over, I think it's 65 dBSs, decibels or something, and it's a rating, then they can't do that. However, this is not over a long period of time, it's just for an evening or something like that. So this is the kind of code we have in 110 is for that long, like for several days where there's noise going on primarily. So the kind of noise that they have is more enforced by the sheriff's office.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to piggyback on that. I have seen it. It's under noise and ordinances, and it is quite complicated on the way that you have to measure it. So.
Okay.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, I'd like to open up public comment for this matter. Do we have any public comment?
I have Robert Berardi. Robert. Followed by Thomas Hayward.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just please state your name for the record.
Robert Berardi, B as in boy, E-R-A-R-D-I. And I am retired after a 35-year law enforcement career, and I do have a little bit of background on issuing temporary licenses regarding alcohol and live music, conditional licenses, but I'm not here for that. However, the lodge is located on the north side of Mount Rose Highway in a zone that is designated as commercial use. On the opposite side of the road is Montreux, a private community, and a few houses back up to Mount Rose Highway with a buffer of a tree line that rests in between and creates some natural atmospheric dispersants of noise. And as you know, Mount Rose Highway was first built in 1937, and through time, it has increased its volume on traffic, and according to the report of NDOT submitted last year, severely increased traffic and road noise has affected all of the communities. The Montreux community could have built a sound barrier, just like Monte Vista did at Mount Rose and Callahan. However, they chose not to, and those residents had the right to do so, but it shouldn't be on the backs of the lodge. Now, as far as the music is concerned, I agree with the approval recommendation for music, but I also have to address this assessment report because there are some constitutional issues that you need to be aware of that actually forces the county to walk barefooted on broken glass, and the one being no rock music. Under the First Amendment, that is a condition. Art is an expression, music is an expression, writings are an expression. So you cannot put yourselves, based on my past history, in that position because it really creates a disadvantage for yourselves in the county, and it makes it unenforceable should something happen. The other issue is the citations. It's my understanding that 2 owners, one current that, while we're here, received 1 citation regarding music, and that was addressed. However, the other 2, and this is where the report is misleading, belong to a prior owner of the business under a different permit and different operating rules. So you can't combine the 2 and make it look like it affects one business. That's pretty prejudicial. The other issue is concerning the amplified music. What exactly does that mean? The county currently has a code that states 60 decibels, and that's variable depending on how it's measured and what the process is for that. So you need to define that in order for this business to
I'm
to go.
sorry.
Is that for me, by the way?
Yeah, we're only
okay.
allowed 3
anyway,
minutes.
I would appreciate your consideration in that approval, and I think it's something we could all use because our next step is going to be assisted living. So,
thank you.
Enjoy.
I have Thomas Hayward, followed by Craig Robluski.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Hayward. The only reason I'm here is, might be a little loud.
We got it. Go ahead.
I'm a property owner that owns several properties along the Mount Rose corridor. I'm up and down Mount Rose Highway a couple times a day, every day. I happen to be a customer of the lodge. It is a small coffee and wine bar. It used to be a restaurant that was built in 1984. People used to stop there all the time coming back from Mount Rose Ski Resort and Sky Tavern. I stop there occasionally to read the newspaper. It's a coffee shop. It's not like a Starbucks, and it's a wine bar. It's not a nightclub. It's not a strip joint. It's where the local community goes and discusses issues. We stop in there when we had the fires there. That's where everybody met and got all their information. We didn't go to the shopping center down by the Rayleighs. So the property's been there since '84. The people complaining purchased houses that were built in the '90s. I go outside with my cell phone. I can barely talk on my phone because of the noise on the highway, on Mount Rose Highway. I have to go inside to make a phone call. We're talking about a patio in the back and putting a person playing instrumental guitar or light singing. That's all they have. They're not bands. This is to promote our local musicians, our local talent, and they come out, they play the guitar or sing, and they expose themselves to the community. So I encourage you to lift this up. I could, if I purchased the property, I could put on my stereo 10 times louder than what they're allowed. In addition, all the properties on the other side of the road are all commercial and they're vacant. They're going to build there. There's going to be construction noise for years, lots of noise. Who knows what kind of business is going to be there? All those businesses are all zoned commercial. Even up, I have properties up by Reindeer Lodge. That's zoned commercial, and it was even approved up there. You guys approved for a gas station. So if worried about noise, it's ridiculous for somebody just playing guitar. That's all I want to mention to you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Craig Lebluski, followed by Karen Mullen.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Craig Robleski. It's kind of hard to follow those two because they just said about everything I wanted to say, but I'm a property owner. I live in Saddlehorn. I have a business in Washoe County, and I got to tell you, if you have not been to the lodge is a hangout that it is not a rock and roll young hangout. It is mainly people who are, like Bob said, a little older. We go there to socialize. A lot of us live in Saddlehorn or Arrow Creek. We stop there when we either come back from skiing, or we stop there in the summertime if we're boating on Lake Tahoe. And the noise complaints that are being filed against the lodge, in my opinion, need to be relooked. Somebody really needs, instead of just listening to complaints, somebody from the county, like Bob said, needs to go out there with a decibel reader, and when they have one of these events, and go outside and see that you can't hear it across the street. The diesel trucks using air brakes, the motorcycles during street vibrations, all of them are about 5 times louder than anything that the lodge would ever have there. So I ask you to really take a look at it. Like Bob said, I like Christian rock, and you're saying I can't go there and listen to that. I think it's a violation of my First Amendment right. Also amplification, like Bob said, what does that mean? There's a guy that plays up there, Dakota Watts. Dakota Watts, he's now pretty famous. He started there. He's got one small amplifier. He sings in a microphone and plays the guitar. Now that's considered amplified music. Nobody even across the street would hear it. So anyway, I appreciate the time. I hope you guys consider looking at really what the restrictions were, because I think they're really unfair to the lodge. Thank you.
Karen Mullen.
Thank you, members of the board. My name's Karen Mullen, and I live across the street. I've submitted a letter on behalf of the 9 property owners that live across the street, and I've also submitted a video of the music being played that we can hear from our lots, and you can clearly hear on that video, so I'm hoping you've listened to it. We have many more, because every time we've complained, we've submitted a video so that the code enforcement and others would understand. When they say they didn't know, it's hard for us to believe, because it was Mr. Burkhart who put in the original application. It was code enforcement who then called and stopped the music, and it stopped. So every year that we've had to complain, because they do it every summer to get away with it, we've had to go to code enforcement. So at any rate, I just wanted to say that on behalf of the neighbors impacted by this request directly, we're not opposed to it being non-amplified. We're opposed to it being amplified, and because the permit was requesting amplified music, we're requesting that it be denied. If the condition is for amplification, then no amplification, then we would agree to that. But we keep being the enforcers here, and there doesn't seem to be fines in our knowledge. Maybe there are. Even Mr. Burkhart says in his comments in the packet that the road noise is more at his place. Of course it is. He's closer to the road. That's why when they do amplification, they've got to get it up over that so that their people can hear it there. This is not in the back of the building. This is on the side of the building, so we get all that music. Just real quickly, please listen to the video. They violated the conditions of approval over a number of years. I've attached emails back at least 4 years. They've placed neighbors as the code enforcers. They say they didn't know anything about it, but we're saying we believe they did. They have tile walls on the interior of the bar, which is acoustically terrible. But that's not our problem. They should fix that. There are plenty of bars, Garwood's, others, that have small bands inside and indoors. This is not unusual. We suggested to the owner that they open the interior back up. He said no, he didn't want to do that. We understand it was previously the Swiss restaurant. We lived there back then. If you look at the names, it's Callahan. We've all been there for a lot of years. I've lived on the mountain since 1978, had my home there since the early 90s, 91. We asked about the parking overflow. I know, but I'm speaking for 9 people.
I know, but we can
So
only
can I just say this? If NDOT is pointing out that that they want to put up no parking signs, you got a parking problem.
Thank you.
And I hope you've read our letter and that it's signed by all the property owners there, and I believe Julie received one other today. Sorry
you.
for going over.
We have no further public comment in chambers. However, we do have a video submitted for public comment by Ken Baldwin. We'll go ahead and share that now. We have no further public comment in chambers and no hands raised via Zoom.
Okay, with that then, we'll close public comment. We'll bring it back to the board for questions.
Kathy, Kathy Julian for the record. On the parking issue, perhaps staff can advise, NDOT did say that there were issues with parking and that they could possibly put up no parking signs presumably along Highway 431, right?
Julie Olander for the record, yes, that would be NDOT does have that ability to do that.
Okay, does that mean that that parking would then overflow to adjacent neighborhoods?
I believe it would just be along the highway. The applicant has provided that one. I had one slide in my presentation showed where the parking was, and that did meet the original parking requirement for the site. So that was not something that I had a lot of leeway to review, however, because it had been already approved with that number of parking spaces.
Okay.
Go ahead, Peter.
Peter Gishon for the record. Do we know if the video that we just saw was amplified music or not? Yes. It was amplified? Okay.
It's louder than what you're hearing, but that's okay. We can hear all the words.
What were you told?
Oh, I simply received the video.
You don't know?
I do not know.
So we don't. Okay.
It's my video.
Okay.
She's saying it was amplified.
Okay. All right. So any other questions? Okay.
Dare I ask council about the prohibition on rock music?
I believe that term was borrowed from the actual application, which said that they were willing to limit the outdoor music to no more than trios and not loud rock music. So that was probably imprudently borrowed from the applicant. And so while the term amplification, I believe, is commonly understood to mean, amplified through mechanical means, but it may be more prudent for this board to be more precise in the term to capture whatever the intent is, may it be drums or to the extent that the amplification clause doesn't already capture, bass guitars and electric guitars and that sort of thing. So that may be worth revising.
Kathy Julian for the record. I'm not clear what the definition of rock music would be. So I would tend to focus in on non-amplification versus a particular type of music.
Julie Olander for the record. We could strike the rock music. They also just said a trio, and so we could just strike the rock music from the condition.
Okay. And then, Ms. Olander, in your terminology, how would you explain to us amplified music? Is that something through a source of electrical power? What would be your definition of that?
I would probably agree with council on how they defined it. It's some kind of mechanical device that they're plugged into.
some kind of mechanical device that they're plugged into. Okay.
I mean, I could look it up and see if Google has a better suggestion, but that's how I define it.
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page when we look at it like this.
The common definition is the process of increasing the volume of sound, and the board certainly has discretion to specify through microphones or amplifiers, or to leave it at its common meaning, whatever this board decides.
So it could be just through this, the microphone, or it could be, yeah, and you want to define that more specifically. That is, that I can add that into the condition.
Do you guys feel that it needs to be enhanced? Or
For the record, Don Christensen, put a little background in performance music and amplification, television and whatnot.
Member Christensen, please speak into the mic. Thank you.
I know, I did it again, didn't I? Have some background in that, and the percussion doesn't need to be amplified. It's loud enough. However, at that distance, what we heard on that tape did not exceed 40, 50 decibels, which is pretty loud. I think the statute or the ordinance reads more than that, 60 or 80, depending on the distance. Very, very subjective. The amplification of sound is, or the transmittal of sound, so many things, it's a variable. I think we need to rely on the existing ordinance, and if they violate it with amplified music, and with the idea that drums don't need to be amplified, they're noisy as they are, then somebody can complain, the sheriff can come out and deal with it. But I think we run in danger of being overly cautious about the noise level. And these are limited hours. I don't think it's unreasonable in a, say this is neighborhood commercial, right? Yeah. In an NC zoning, I don't think it's unreasonable. And at that distance, yes, it's annoying, but it does not exceed the even 50 decibel level, in my humble opinion, of what I see on the, and what I hear on the recording. So, having said all of that, I think we need to go ahead and proceed very carefully and just say, should approve this for non-amplified music and see how it goes.
Non-amplified.
No, I'm sorry, non-amplified music.
Yeah, I'm okay with approving it with no amplification, no more than trio groups, and the hours. And like you stated, if there is an issue, that's what code enforcement is for. I would highly recommend that somebody use that and then keep documentation. I do have one question for you, Ms. Olander. No, on all these citations, were there different owners? Different owners on these, or are you?
If we could bring that screen back up, I would have to go back. I think there was, the first one I think was under a different ownership, or I could be mistaken. I would probably ask the applicant.
The first two were not under
The last one.
Just the one, okay. Okay, so would you mind coming up and reinstate that, just for the record, and then state your name for the record? And where you fit in. Are you the owner?
I am. I'm Carly Southern. I'm one of the owners.
Okay.
So the last code infraction was under my sister and I. The first two were not. Okay. And that's when we opened this whole thing, when we got that first, I think it was July 6th last year, or 2 years ago maybe now, coming up, was the only time under us.
Okay, okay, okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, go ahead, Don.
Thank you. I did have one other comment. For the record, Don Christensen, I'll speak directly into the microphone. I'm looking at all these meeting comment cards. We had the neighborhood meeting, and almost overwhelmingly in support of a moderate amount of noise coming from the lodge. And I think the vast majority of neighbors who have expressed themselves has been in support of this special use permit. And then I notice, of course, that this is right smack dab on the highway. I don't think that the noise is going to be a big issue. And try to I don't know a word, but to make it louder than the traffic, you'll never do that. But this is a reasonable request for a neighborhood commercial permit, with the idea is just don't make a lot of noise.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, Kathy Julian, for the record, my only comment is that a number of those positive comments did come from people who are not necessarily neighbors and may just be customers of the facility, which I support this as long as it's non-amplified, and the reference to trios, and that's fine.
Right.
So.
And that's in the conditions of approval. So that is on Exhibit A, page 12, under conditions of approval. So that is covered. All right. You want to make a motion?
Sure. Peter Gishon for the record. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve amendment of conditions case number WAC 25-0001 for Burkhart Management Group, LLC, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, but we're going to modify condition J5 to eliminate rock music as a condition, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.808.25.
Wonderful. This is Rob. I'll second it. So we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. All right. We're moving on to 8B. This is a special use permit. It's case number WSUP 25-0001 for Sky Tavern Grading. For hearing, discussion, and possible action to approve a special use permit for major grading intended to legitimize and improve unsanctioned areas of grading used for mountain bike, adaptive bike, and one-wheel trails into an official amenity. The total volume of grading is 18,000 cubic yards, and the total disturbed area is 7.3 acres. The applicant is also requesting the various standards in Washoe County Code Section 110.438.31B. And Mr. Bronzik, you are up.
Thank you. Chris Bronzik for the record. This is WSUP 25-0001. This is for Sky Tavern Grading. So this is located at the Sky Tavern Ski Resort. It's Parks and Recreation zoned and within the forest planning area. The property currently abuts undeveloped land, open space, one commercial establishment, as well as single-family residential parcels. Sky Tavern's been an active ski resort since 1944 and was acquired by the city of Reno in 1968. The bike trails that are being proposed as part of this grading plan are classified as an active recreation use type. This is refers to public park recreational use types or those active recreational use types. Because this is located within the Parks and Recreation regulatory zone, it is allowed by right. And so the only ask that's being before you today is the grading aspect. So as mentioned, major grading SUP. They're requesting a total volume of grading of 18,000 cubic yards over the life of the project, with a total disturbance area of 7.3 acres, as well as driveway or road that traverses any slopes greater than 30%. Additionally, as part of this, it will capture existing disturbances that were done illegally. As part of this request, they are requesting to vary certain standards. Those standards are allowing slopes greater than 3 to 1 without a geotechnical analysis, and allowing slopes steeper than 3 to 1 that would require riprap or geotechnical analysis. Due to the way that these jumps are created, if we were to require the literal view of the code for these jumps, it would cause substantially more grading required to make these jumps feasible, and substantially more trees removed and potential scarring of the land. So staff was able to make these required findings. Additionally, the riprap causes potential safety concerns. So this is a site plan of everything that's proposed, and there's a lot happening here. But there are multiple trails, all the way from beginner up to expert and pro. I know it's a little difficult to see, but there is a yellow trail that goes through, and this is specific to hiking, so there will be no mountain biking or any other additional use of that trail. Before I move on, so with these trails, they're proposed 1 to 2 trails to be constructed per year between 2025 and 2029. And so the applicant did state that if any additional trails were to be constructed after 2029, they would come back for a new special use permit. So there is an amended condition as part of this. The original condition for 1G was to replace 28 total trees along the project. However, to keep in line with code, I'm recommending an amended condition that states that any trees greater than 6 inches in diameter shall be replaced. That classifies as significant trees within our code. And in discussions with the applicant, they are agreeable to this amended condition. So this application was sent to 12 reviewing agencies. Those agencies did provide conditions of approval, which are found within Exhibit A of the staff report. Public notice was sent to 35 unique property owners within 500 feet. And so there was a wrong information at the end of the staff report. That staff report, this is the correct applicant information. So staff is recommending approval with conditions with that amended condition, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Good afternoon, Ryan Switzer with Sierra Vista Engineering. I'm a civil engineer and trails consultant here on behalf of Sky Tavern, the applicant. I also have a few representatives here with me from Sky Tavern. Rick Reed, the head of Bike Park Development, and Chris Brown, the COO and executive director, if you guys have questions at the end. I'll make this short and sweet because I think Chris touched on the majority of everything we wanted to cover, and we're agreeable to everything that's in the staff report, including the amended condition as he stated. So I'll breeze through this pretty quick. As Chris stated, the land is actually owned by the city of Reno. It's on a 50-year lease to Sky Tavern, and the local community has been using the facility for obviously ski type uses. And you guys have had before you another special use permit in 2023, I think that carried over to 2024, that was specific to the winter uses, snowmaking, expansion of parking and lighting. I just wanted to clarify that those are completely separate uses, and we're here today specific to the grading related to trails, which are spring, summer, and fall uses. So, yeah, totally different use. The local community uses this facility spring, summer, and fall already, and what we're here to do today is to try to legitimize those uses by making sure that those retroactive grading of trails get approved, and then moving forward for future trails that those are approved. And like Chris stated, this is a 5-year plan. Anything beyond that, we would come back to either extend or apply for a new special use permit. And as well, each of these new trail projects moving forward, each year they're going to require building permits, or a grading permit, I should say. So 2025, for example, if this special use permit is approved, Sky Tavern would apply for a grading permit to include all of the trails for that specific project year. Wrong way. So as Chris stated, we're here because we're triggering 3 separate thresholds. These are the exact sections that we're triggering. We're grading 7 acres over the course of the project. That includes both existing trails and proposed. We're grading up to 18,000 cubic yards, which is, again, existing and proposed. And then the third trigger is kind of impossible to avoid because we're on a mountain slope. There's going to be slopes greater than 30%. So we considered the trails as a driveway or a road that traversed that, even if there was kind of a gray area. So we just wanted to make sure we included that in our application. This is a map that includes only the existing trails, which actually is the majority of what's out there. I'd say it's approximately 2/3 of the project is already existing, and about 1/3 is proposed over the next 5 years. So when you look at this, and then my next slide will show kind of a combination of both existing and proposed. It kind of just gives you a good idea of what's out there now versus what we're proposing. The topography slopes southwest to northeast, and like I mentioned a minute ago, there's definitely slopes over 30%, so we can't not trigger a driveway or road traversing 30% slopes. So this, as Chris had in his presentation too, is both existing and proposed trails. The table on the left side of the slide actually has a breakdown of the existing for the top 2/3 and then proposed on the bottom third. And if you have questions on that in detail, I'm happy to dive into them, but roughly proposing 1 or 2 trails per year from 2025 to 2029. All of the proposed trails are going to be built by professional trail builders. Sky Tavern is working with a couple different ones, primarily Momentum Trail Concepts. It's a local trail consulting company based here in Reno. They're built stuff worldwide and build safe and progressive trails. So that's another key component to this with the community. Sky Tavern's all about progression and people from all walks of life being able to use the facility. So adaptive bikes in the lower right corner, kids and people that are near professional can enjoy this facility and use all the different facility types. As Chris mentioned, the one variance request is to have slopes steeper than 3-to-1 without permanent mitigation, like riprap or revegetation. The trails themselves aren't actually over 3-to-1 most of the time. There are maybe slight little sections for just a few feet at a time, but this is in relation to kind of the sides of the trail. And as Chris mentioned, we'd like to vary that in order to avoid removing further trees and scarring of the hillside. Again, as Chris mentioned, we did notice all of the neighboring properties back in December and held a neighborhood meeting. There were just a couple comments from neighbors on the southeast side on Bums Gulch Road that just asked for us to be mindful of not impacting anything too close to their properties. And as you saw in the previous slides, most of the trails are on the west side of the property anyways, so I don't think that that should be an issue. With that, we're here happy to answer questions. If you have questions specific to the development of the site, I'm happy to answer them, and applicants here as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Does any board members have any questions at this time? Go ahead.
Kathy Julian for the record. Just could you clarify a bit, and I did ask this of staff, but I think you're the expert on it. the distinction between trail work for riding a mountain bike just up and along the trail and a bike park sort of configuration. Is there a bike park with jumps and specifics in this as well?
Sure. Yeah, Ryan Switzer for the record. Yeah, there's a mix of both trails there's trails that are specific to get to the top of the facility, and those are flat, wide, smooth, basically just as close to a sidewalk as possible without having concrete, right? And then there's also a mix of the green, it's just rated exactly like a ski resort. Green trails are for beginners, blue are for intermediate, black are for professionals or more advanced riders. And those would have more features we're calling like bikes, jumps, drops, ledges, even putting rocks in the trail on purpose, called rock gardens and things of that nature. So there's going to be a variety, and there already is in the existing trail system, variety of trail types out there.
Okay, anybody else have any questions right now?
Peter Gishon for the record. One of the questions I had was how much we are bringing into conformance. You said approximately 2/3 of the project is already complete.
Ryan Switzer for the record. Yeah, that's approximately right. On the slide with the proposed and existing trails, they have the exact numbers. I want to say it's roughly 13,000 cubic yards existing of grading has been performed and about 5,000 proposed. And same thing with the acreage. I think it's like 4 or 5 acres have been disturbed and 1 to 2 are proposed.
I think this board is always curious, how did we get to this point? How old are these trails? Who did we not ask the right questions of to get to a point where we've got 2/3 of a project already completed without a permit?
Right. Ryan Switzer for the record. So the trails, my understanding, it might be best for the applicant themselves to provide a little bit more background on the history, but my understanding is they've been in existence from 2000 or so, and those were done unbeknownst to Sky Tavern, just social trails, and then the last few years they have had some trails constructed under their direction by professional trail builders to be built according to safety standards and such. I guess with the previous existing special use permits, there was the one specific to snow in 2023, but I believe there were also others prior to that that did include grading in them, and I believe the applicant was under the impression that minor grading and trails aren't super impactful as far as like not using super heavy equipment or anything like that. They figured that would fit under their existing special use permit. It was not until looking at what these future 5 years looked like and the amount of earthwork that they knew that it was going to trigger a special use permit, I went back and reanalyzed what had already been done and realized that was so far over the threshold.
Perhaps a question for Chris, maybe academic somewhat, but again, curious. As I read through the packet, it kind of struck me that, code references driveways and roads, code references slopes, we're talking bike jumps. I mean, is there any contemplation of ordinance specific to recreational trails? I mean, in some respects, this seems kind of like overkill that we're applying all of these driveway and roadway standards to a bike park.
So, Chris Brunswick, for the record. So our grading code has gone through numerous reworks. The current iteration is much more easy to work with for various types of projects, gives more volume, gives more slope and allowances. But because historically we've had very few of these types of projects come forward, they weren't always at the forefront of the code. And so basically there's a lot of gray areas, and that's why these are coming forward, and that's why you see that driveway associated with this project. I understand where you're coming from, where it seems overkill. Unfortunately, our code just doesn't differentiate.
Just wanted that clarification. Thanks. That's all I have.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open up public comment. Do we have any public comment on this matter?
In chambers, we have no public comment, and on Zoom, there are 4, no hands raised.
Okay, so we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. More question time or discussion or a motion, whatever you guys want. I'll open it up for a motion.
As a current Sky dad, I would like to make the motion. I move that, Peter Gishon for the record, I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve with conditions as modified in the email received today, special use permit case number WSUP 25-0001 for Sky Tavern Junior Ski Area with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.810.30 and 110.804.25.
All right, this is Rob, I'll second it. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, at this time, we are going to take a 10-minute break. It's 2:25, we'll be back at 2:35.
Recording stopped.
Modify, reverse, or remand an administrative hearing officer's hearing order dismissing a code enforcement violation of Washoe County Code Section 110.306.35B, outdoor storage of an RV or other items on a vacant parcel without a required existing principal use. And the staff presentation is Chad. Chad is...
Good afternoon, Board of Adjustment members. Chad Giesinger for the record, Washoe County Planning Manager for Code Enforcement. That is the presentation for the next item. Item 8C, I wanted to inform the board that the parties have agreed to request a continuance from the board of that item to the April 3rd to the next meeting. And the reason for the continuance is I was contacted early this week by their legal counsel, and they want to work out a compliance plan. So we are requesting a continuance for 30 days while I work with their legal counsel to potentially enter into a compliance agreement, and then we may pull appeal from April 1st if we're successful at that. So
okay.
That's the request.
I apologize. That was 8C.
Right.
So they're out of order, basically, right? Because, yeah. So, all right. So the one that we're moving is for the Belford?
No, the 8C is the Jones appeal.
Yeah, that's the Jones.
Yeah, that's the one we're requesting a continuance on.
Okay, because I heard somebody say that's the wrong one. I'm reading the wrong one.
They just saw the next presentation.
Oh, they put the wrong one up
Yeah.
there. Okay, I'm going, okay.
I did have a presentation for 8C, but we don't need it.
Did I read the wrong one? Okay, all right, cool, okay.
Yeah.
All right, understood. With that said, we have to open up public comment. I'm sorry. Do we have any public comment on the matter?
No public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
Okay, all right, bring it back to the board. So Chad would like to do a continuance. Does anybody have a problem with that? Or can I get a motion for a continuance for 30 days? Chad, is that what you said, 30 days?
Yes. Yeah, that's the plan at the moment.
Kathy Julian for the record. I move that we give item 8C
C, yes.
a continuance for the next 30 days.
Okay, this is Rob, I'll second it. All those, okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay. Moving on to 8D. This one is an appeal of an administrative hearing order on code enforcement case number WVIO PLA 24-0100 for Belford. This is for a possible action, hearing, and discussion to affirm, modify, reverse, or remand an administrative hearing officer's hearing order remanding or modifying a code enforcement violation of Washoe County Code Section 110.306.35B, outdoor storage of an RV on a vacant parcel without the required existing principal use. Once again, it is Chad. Chad, you are up on this.
Chad Giesinger, Planning Manager for the record again, and this is agenda item 8D, and this is an appeal by the code enforcement program of an administrative hearing decision. So just by way of a little bit of background for the board, because I know you don't hear these cases very often, when code enforcement issues a civil penalty, the respondent, the violator, in other words, has two options. They can either pay the fine, well, three options. They can either comply, they can pay the fine, or they have the right to appeal to what's called the Administrative Hearing Office to make their case as to why they feel they're not in violation. So when that hearing is held, the Administrative Hearing Office either affirms, modifies, or dismisses the subject violation based on the testimony from the two parties and the evidence presented, and then they issue what's called an administrative hearing order. The item before the board today is an appeal of an issued hearing order that did not affirm a violation case in WVIO PLA 24-0100. Rather, it modified it, and it also had some perplexing direction and language in it, which I'll get into further later on in this presentation. So Chapter 125 of Washoe County Code, known as the Administrative Enforcement Code, states that if there's an aggrieved person after a hearing order is issued, that they have the right to appeal to the Board of Adjustment. And then I want to make it clear on these types of cases, the next step after this is not to the Board of County Commissioners, as was read in earlier. In this instance, this process, the next step would be judicial review. And then that would be the final step in due process. There we go. So from background on this property, it's located in Warm Springs at 300 Poweraw Springs Road in the foothills of the Poweraw Mountain Range, so it's pretty far up on the east side of the Warm Springs Valley. It's a 104-acre undeveloped property with significant topographical constraints. There's no utilities or infrastructure on the property, and the regulatory zone is general rural agriculture, which allows a primary use. A typical primary use would be one dwelling unit per 40 acres. Here's a map of the subject location. You can see up there by the word pyramid. Just below that is where that Wild Horse Adoption Center is. Just for reference, you would turn there and then work your way back up in there. So background on how this case started, was an anonymous complaint was received by code enforcement way back in January of 2018. And the complaint alleged that someone was living in a traverse trailer and had placed some car containers, all without any improvements to the property, such as a well, septic, garbage collection, or a house. Code enforcement opened an investigation, and at first we couldn't verify the RV component of it, but we did confirm there were outdoor storage of materials in view. We worked a separate case on that, and there was compliance achieved on that, but subsequent investigations did confirm there was an RV on the parcel. And since it did not have an established principal use, that's a violation of Washoe County Code 110-306-35B, outdoor storage on a vacant parcel. So after the owner received the violation in August of 2018, code enforcement met with them in our offices and provided a compliance plan that had two options. One was really straightforward, move all the items. The other one, a little more complicated, obtain a building permit and construct a single-family house. And by doing so, that would allow accessory uses, such as the storage of an RV. And the owner chose to pursue the second option. Because it takes time to get a building permit, in this case it took a long time to get a building permit, an extension of time was granted for them to work on submittal. It wasn't very timely, so some additional EOTs were granted, but a building permit was finally issued in November of 2019. This is the building permit number that was issued for a very simple, small dwelling that met the components of a habitable dwelling, so a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen. It's kind of a kit barn cabin type structure. Oops. And the reason that's important is because Washoe County Code 110-310-35A, temporary uses, does allow a property owner, it has an exemption to the outdoor storage provision, where it allows a property owner to reside in an RV when they have an active building, when they have an issued building permit to construct a permanent single-family dwelling, and while the permit remains active. Now, there are some time limits on the length of time you can do that, and I'll explain that in further detail later. But based on this code provision, we were able to close the RV case while they pursued construction of the dwelling. However, as I mentioned, there's some time constraints involved here, both for the RV living and the building permit process. So in order to keep a building permit active, a regular process has to be demonstrated. And process basically amounts to having at least one inspection every 6 months. And there's many, many, many steps involved in the construction of a home, many, many, many opportunities to have inspections at each of those steps. Also, the building code, chapter 100, states that construction authorized by a building permit has to be commenced within 6 months, and it cannot be suspended or abandoned for more than 6 months at any point. And then just in general, a building permit automatically expires after 18 months and must be renewed if the project has not been completed. The building official has the authority over all that process and may grant extensions. So in this case, the property owner did not commence work within 180 days, and they had not completed any work towards building the project after 18 months. However, due to COVID, the building department did issue an extension due to extenuating circumstances around COVID, and this was common during that time in May of 2021. Unfortunately, after that extension, no progress was made either. Then a second renewal was actually approved in November of 2022, despite the lack of inspections and any construction having occurred. So that was pretty generous of the building department. However, after the second renewal, work did not commence, and the permit was again due to expire in May of last year. At that point, the owner then requested a third extension That request was subsequently denied due to the history of no progress and lack of inspections. And then additionally, and very importantly, the respondent had now exceeded the maximum allowance of 37 months of occupancy pursuant to that temporary occupancy code in Article 310. And all during this time, code enforcement had continued to receive complaints about things like the generator running and things of that nature. So here's that section of code I've been citing, and in the highlights section there, the upper section just says, yes, you can do this. We're supposed to collect a $2,000 bond for renewal. It does allow for one extension for an 18-month period, but in the pink there, but in no case will the temporary occupancy be permitted for 37 months from the original date of the permit. And I just want to include this slide because this became a main point of the arguments at the hearing, that the owner was arguing that they had completed substantial work. However, that work was some minor work done to start the process of installing a septic system. And the work was never completed, nor did it ever pass final inspection by the health department. And the work occurred actually in July of 2020, according to the health department, which was well before the third extension request, so that really had no bearing whatsoever on the factors involved in the building official denying the third extension. And basically, they would have to start over at this point in any event because nothing was done to the health code. And I do have health staff in the room if anybody is curious about how that process works, but it's really not relevant to the current case that we have going on right now. So once there was no longer an active building permit, the RV and any other items that were on the property had to be removed because there's not a principal use on the property, not a main use per Article 302. So code enforcement issued an administrative warning at that time and gave the property owner 30 days to remove all the items or a fine would be issued. But the property owner did not remove the items and just continued to argue that the building permit should have been extended. So due to noncompliance, a penalty notice was issued. Here's a couple photos of the subject property and the RVs in question. That was from July. The one on the bottom was from July. So as is the right of the owner, they did appeal that penalty notice and an administrative hearing was scheduled. The administrative hearing office, just by way of background, is not affiliated with the code enforcement program. It's a separate third-party entity. It's staffed by volunteer pro tem judges or lawyers, so they're an independent arbitrator, basically. So at the hearing, the respondent presented some repetitive and mostly irrelevant evidence and testimony related to a separate issue that code enforcement has never been involved in any way, shape, or form involving the Wilcox Ranch Property Owners Association and some kind of alleged activity that's been going on with that, but that really has nothing to do with the violation of the RV being stored on a vacant piece of property. During the hearing, there was also continued arguments that the building permit should have been extended. However, the hearing office has no authority over that process. It's the building official's decision, and that decision had been rendered at least 6 months prior to the hearing. So again, the administrative hearing office has no jurisdiction over the building extension permit decision process, and it cannot rule that that piece of this be revisited. Despite that, the hearing officer issued an order that stated the owner must request an extension of the building permit. Again, they don't have that authority, or seek a building permit by February 28th. And the word seek is very problematic, which I'll explain further on next slides. The hearing officer based this decision on the following factors. This is what they said on the record: perceived extenuating circumstances of COVID. We're talking about this was just in December when we had the hearing. Perceived property title issues, again, those were not germane. A belief the owner had performed substantial work in furtherance of completing the building permit, and that was the septic component back in 2020. So in rebuttal to that, code enforcement argues there had already been an extension long ago issued in 2021 due to COVID, so those extenuating circumstances had already been addressed. Again, the alleged property title issues are not relevant or germane to the RV violation, and the disputes with the Wilcox Ranch Property Owners Association has nothing to do with our case. We're not involved with it. They didn't even know it was happening during this whole time. And And furthermore, Jonathan Belfort is the owner of record on the assessors, and he had been issued a building permit as an owner-builder. So yeah, the word seek, ordering the respondent to seek a building permit, that's such a nebulous and vague term. I mean, that could be a phone call to the building department. So code enforcement felt compelled to especially refute that component of the order because it's basically meaningless. Regarding the extension, as I mentioned, they had already requested an extension of the building permit, and it was denied 6 months prior. And again, that's under the authority of the building official. It's not under the authority of the hearing office. There. Okay. Where was I? Okay, yeah, so seek. And then the claim that the respondent had performed substantial work is just not supported by the record. There's no record of inspections having occurred. And so for these reasons, code enforcement felt compelled to appeal this hearing order. So in terms of the code analysis, again, this is a violation of Washoe County Code 110-306-35B, which prohibits outdoor storage on vacant lots. The property is considered vacant because it does not have an established principal use, such as a house. If you're curious, the definition of outdoor storage is the outside placement for more than 72 hours. And so again, to comply with code, this portion of code, the RV and any other items would need to be removed from the property, and any other accessory uses cannot be placed on the property until a main use is established. So again, conclusion, there's no established principal use. The property is vacant per the development code. There's outdoor storage on the property, and it's not allowed. Again, the owner has exceeded the maximum time of 37 months anyways that you can live in an RV, and the building permit that allowed that in the first place is expired. So regarding public notice on these cases, public notice is not required as part of an administrative enforcement proceeding. Only notice to the respondent, to the owner, is required, and that was provided. And then you don't have the typical findings that you usually make in most of the cases that come before you. You're not required to make any specific findings. You're just, all you need to do is review the record and listen to the testimony evidence presented at the hearing to render your decision. I will point out that the decision of hearing office is presumed to be reasonable and lawful, so it is my burden in this case, since I'm the appellant, to convince you otherwise. If the board decides to uphold our appeal and reverse the hearing order, the hearing office decision, we would request that you include a written order or compliance plan so that we have some guidance in terms of when the RVs and other items would need to be removed. I'm suggesting 25 days, since that's the length of the appeal process to petition for judicial review. And then the other standard items, written order, will be served on the appellant and the respondent. Staff is recommending that the Board of Adjustment reverse the decision of the Administrative Hearing Office, and in addition, or the removal of the RVs within 25 days and all the other items. And this is a possible motion for your consideration. It's also contained on page 2 of your staff report. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation and open it up to any questions the board may have.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open it up for Mr. Belfort. I just want to state a couple ground rules. We're going to give you 15 minutes to speak, and public comment will be 3 minutes. Okay, go ahead.
Well,
and please state your name for the record.
My name is Jonathan Belfort. I reside at 300 Poweraw Springs Road, Reno, Nevada, 89510. First, I'd like to make sure that you guys are aware of a few things. I have 2 jurisdictional challenges submitted to Washoe County. One has to do with the administrative process violation. The other has to do with a land patent that I recently discovered that my property does fall under land patent and may not be subject to Washoe County restrictions and authority. My next point here is I'd like to refer to the middle row here of these people. We got Jeffrey Earl Hill. we've got Connie Schreck, we've got James Lee Schreck. When they say that there is no correlation between code enforcement and Wilcox, the debacle going on at Wilcox Ranch Property Owners Association, that's totally untrue. I have submitted evidence to the Administrative Hearing Office that there is a connection between the Schrecks. Jeffrey Earl Hill works for the city of Reno in the Building Sewer Department, and there is some collusion going on here, and we have proof of it. We've submitted probably over 2,000 pages of criminal complaints that have been completely ignored by the DA's office and counsel for Washoe County, Mary Kinderis. I'd now like to refer to, I submitted this with Mr. Geisinger as Exhibit 777. I do not know if he provided it to you, but I'm going to be reading either or. If he did or did not provide it to you, it was submitted. I'm going to read some excerpts of it, which to date, I believe this explains the situation more than I could in the 15-minute time I have. This is a letter to Mary Kinderis, Deputy DA, Counsel for Washoe County. Thank you for your response to my FOIA request. I do find it more than coincidental that a Washoe County Deputy District Attorney is responding to my FOIA request personally. Could it be it was on the same day that the Washoe County Lands Bill was introduced or reintroduced? It is my opinion actions by Washoe County and complainant James Lee Schreck have a direct correlation to announcements having to do with Washoe County Lands Bill, Los Altos Toll Road, geothermal development in the Warm Springs area of Palomino Valley, $100 billion data center development in the area dating back to 2019. My question to you is, why have you or the district attorney's office not responded to the sworn criminal complaints being sent to you by my associate Jeffrey Wilson concerning embezzlement, fraud, racketeering committed by former officers of Wilcox Ranch Property Owners Association, Washoe County, and City of Reno employees? I hope you, as an officer of the court, realize you are obligated to report, investigate crimes that are reported to you and protect citizens' rights. This is why I wish to take the opportunity to memorialize some of the facts in the matter of WVIO-PLA-240100. I obtained my Washoe County building permits on November 28th, 2019. The state of Nevada was declared a state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic that lasted 2.5 years and was declared nationally March 12th, 2020. This is just 4 months after spending approximately $22,000 for plans and permits for a small cabin and engineered septic system. These permits began at the start of winter, so I could not be reasonably expected to begin construction in an area above the snow line during inclement weather and limited access due to road maintenance. In July of 2020, I began construction of an engineered septic system at a cost in materials and equipment of over $30,000, not including several months of heavy-duty labor due to rocky terrain. And I also have the pictures with me, detailed pictures of the construction of that part. I also actually forgot to note, if you're questioning my resolve and my feeling that I'm 100% right and reasonable in this matter, yesterday I filed a county claim against Washoe County for $5 million for due process violation, selective enforcement, racketeering involving Washoe County employees. And I might add that anyone who is a decent Washoe County employee not involved in any of these activities, I apologize that you're having to listen to some of the things that are going to come up in here. Okay, 30,000. 7 months of heavy-duty labor due to the rocky terrain. This engineered system equaled or surpassed the cost of the cabin. In early November, I contracted a very severe case of COVID-19 at a weekly meeting of Auxiliary Station 450 Truckee Meadows Fire Rescue. I was incapacitated almost 2 months and was in a weakened state for many months after, continuing to this day, and survived unassisted in an off-grid situation. I did not receive any compensation or stimulus from any source and carefully survived on my savings. During this time, Washoe County received $92 million, or was it $99 million, payments from federal government for COVID relief. The state of Nevada ordered a moratorium on evictions that was in effect until December 31st, 2023, just 5 months before Washoe County sought to deny me my remaining building permit extensions that were represented to me in writing and that I relied on, and literally throw me off my property, rendering me homeless. According to information received from Washoe County Building Planning, there is a provision for delays in completion for good cause. Apparently, this does not apply to me, as Washoe County Building Planning did not reply to my inquiries for over 40 days. And only after 3 emails and a registered letter, and to this day have never addressed my claims of being COVID-19 pandemic impacted, or my struggling to deal with what is now being referred to as an inflationary crisis, not to mention my assertions of health issues, which should be sufficient to extend my permit. But if necessary, we'll elaborate further at the appropriate time due to my privacy. This shows a concerted pattern of Washoe County Code Enforcement Building Planning to take retaliatory actions against me for reporting crimes and intentionally preventing me from building on my property in what has amounted to a racketeering operation involving current and former Washoe County employees, land developers, investors, and former officers of Wilcox Ranch Property Owners Association. I'd like to stop at that point and point out 2 weeks after I received the notice from Washoe County, I saw a bunch of heavy equipment moving in on the property next to me, located at 0 Para Springs Road. They then proceeded to do a large amount of unpermitted grading and built a land bridge across a waterway, altering the waterway, and all with no permits, as confirmed by FOIAs under the Freedom of Information Act, that there was a complaint in November when they started doing the grading, and I FOIA'd it again. There was no corrective action taken. I also have numerous instances of retaliatory selective enforcement against me in the 3 surrounding properties. I've got pictures. They've all been submitted. I don't know if you've gotten them yet. Also, another thing I'd like to point out is the original recording of the administrative hearing office several weeks ago was then reissued, the link to it was reissued by building planning. I didn't realize this until I scrolled down and I thought, why is the adverse party to this reissuing links? I had viewed it before on the Administrative Hearing Office's link and then further reviewed their link, and I believe, based on information and belief and witness, that that tape was altered. There were parts of it softened, and that may have been what you people viewed. And I have all the email chains to do with that. Okay, back to Exhibit 777. Taking retaliatory action on me for reporting crimes, intentionally preventing me from building on my property, amounted to a racketeering operation. Former officers of Wilcox Ranch Property Owners Association, that would include James Lee Schreck, Jeffrey Hill. I'd also like to point out Mr. Hill has a pending suit against him for trespass and unauthorized grading on my associate, Mr. Wilson's property. So I hope they all disclose all of that when they get up to give their public comment. Racketeering operation, former county employees, land developers, does 1 through 100. The county's insistence that I need to pay my building and permitting fees and resubmit plans amounts to obstruction and extortion, when the logical solution would be for them to extend my permits effective May 28, 2025, and apply these funds to completing the project. This all just smacks of retaliation for reporting crimes, selective enforcement, oppression under color of office, and using an official government position for the benefit of oneself or another. Right there. James Lee Schreck has been buying up properties while intentionally devaluing others' properties. We have proof of it. It's all in the real estate things. I believe he's given people bags of money when purchasing their properties to keep the lower rate, paying $119,000 allegedly next to a house they're asking $2.5 million for. Okay? We also have massive amounts of other stuff here. Okay. Based on information, evidence, and belief, it appears the decision was made solely based on the complaint of property owner, investor, land developer James Lee Schreck, with a documented 15-year history of threats, intimidation, placing of injurious materials and obstructions in the roadway to damage vehicles and discourage other property owners and potential buyers, and actually attacking one resident. Despite repeated complaints to Washoe County Code Enforcement and Washoe County Sheriff's Office, no actions were taken on James Lee Schreck's effort to control and obstruct access to my property. In conflicting statements made by Washoe County Code Enforcement Officer Scott Brian Farmer at an administrative hearing, the extensions were being denied pre-complaint by Mr. Schreck. This is directly contradicted to Washoe County Building Planning own administrative hearing. The extensions were being denied, were listed as permanent extension status pending. Also of note is the fact that Mr. Schreck's complaint and timestamped by email at 8:45, June 6, 2024, just 4 hours after a partial outline.
Sir, we have to stop. Your 15 minutes is up. Thank you.
He didn't have to stop.
He did stop. He stopped at 15 minutes. He had some technical issues. And
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Does any board member have any questions at this time for anybody? Okay, then let's open up public comment. Do we have any public comment?
I have Jeff Hill in Chambers, followed by Jeffrey Merritt Wilson.
My name is Jeff Hill. I live at 4100 Wilcox Ranch Road. I'm just here to de-slander my name, I guess. I'm retired. I no longer work for the City of Reno. The City of Reno has no collusion or involvement in their situation. That's a far stretch and delusional. I don't know any of these county planning people or inspectors other than the ones I've seen on their tapes that they've sent out. Nobody is doing anything to try to stop him from building a home. I don't care if he lives there. That doesn't bother me at all. I just am tired of being slandered and having allegations against me for no reason. I think the rest of the neighbors and community out there feel the same way. So, you know, if he's in violation with Washoe County, that's between him and Washoe County, not between me and him. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Merritt Wilson, followed by Jim Schreck.
Jeffrey Merritt Wilson here. I was elected by Jeffrey Earl Hill and the Schrecks. They elected me and placed me into the Secretary Treasurer of Wilcox Ranch. When I got the books and records, I found a vast amount of fraud and embezzlement in there. I submitted a 1,200-plus page criminal complaint, sworn and verified to the district attorney about the embezzlement, the sheriff, the attorney general, the secretary of state. They all have the claim. They've done nothing about it. And specifically, Mary Canderas has done nothing about it. And back to Jeffrey Earl Hill. He was a director in this said association, and he is an adverse party, whereas they submitted papers to us saying that the association does not exist, even though they voted a perpetuity vote under the Gail Kern, local attorney. They filed a perpetuity vote for the association concerning all the property members. So Jeffrey Earl Hill voted for it, Schreck voted for it. Now they're saying it doesn't exist. And then, they've been attacking me. James Schreck threatened to bury me and Mr. Belfort, and there's a sheriff report on that. It's inside of the criminal complaint. So this whole matter with Belfort is an attack, in my opinion, on him. This is about title. You have 80-some-odd people with titles that are defective. There's 80 property owners out there, okay? This is a big problem because you have attorneys, Gail Kern, leaning on the properties, taking properties on the courthouse step, okay, and putting it into the county. There's $33,000 unaccounted for that I have a FOIA on the county's receiving money while they're voting, putting liens on everybody, and now they say it doesn't exist. This whole matter is about title, and this is going to go to federal court, okay? The district attorney is dereliction of their duties. They're refusing to do anything about it. Mr. Belfort has faulty title, and then you're going to put a $100 fine on him or whatever it is, and this is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to clean this mess up. And I've had enough, and I'm not going to stop until this is corrected. These people need to go to jail for fraudulent votes at the Secretary of State's office. They committed fraud and they're racketeering, threatening to kill me. With firearms, I'm going to bury you and Mr. Belfort, and the sheriff does nothing about it. This is a bunch of nonsense, and it needs to stop now. I've had it. There's 80 people that have defective properties, and this needs to be fixed immediately.
Thank you.
Jim Schreck, followed by Connie Schreck.
For the record, James Schreck. I did file a complaint against Mr. Belfort for living at 300 Power Range Road after the permit expired. I think that's within legal reasoning. He's been giving more than an adequate time to finish his project. He's never had a water source, to my knowledge, to operate the septic system. So it's my belief all the rest of this POA stuff is more of a shock to me than it is to my wife. It has no bearing on this situation. In my opinion, folks, when you have people like this living without infrastructure on a raw piece of dirt, that devaluates other people's property. That's just common sense. And all this stuff I'm hearing about fraud and racketeering and this, that, and the other thing, these people have no legal background. It's obvious the DA's office isn't responding because there's no case. That's my own opinion, just being caught off guard with this. I think there's some problems with these two. But anyway, I appreciate you letting me address the council. And one other thing, I'm not a land developer. I'm a rancher. I raise cattle. I need a lot of property. I'm not a land developer. I love where I live. I love Washoe County. It's just sad that people come out and try to live illegally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Connie Schreck, followed by Jonathan Belfort.
I have no comment.
Okay, Jonathan Belfort.
Additionally, the Zero Para Springs that we are still investigating whether Mr. Schreck has involvement in that, when this started, I sought help from my county commissioner for my district, Janine Herman. Just recently, due to the FOIA of Zero Para Springs, her name is all over this subdivision. And Kelly Mullen, who is working she's the one telling me I have no extensions, even though I have it in writing that I had 2 more extensions left. Her name is all over it. So while I'm asking Janine Herman for help in this matter, she never told me, while she is, I guess, a sponsor of this development directly next to me, and then the thing with the altering the waterway and the illegal grading, nothing's being done about it. I'm just telling you, these people are liars. We've dealt with them at the meetings. They will say anything. Mr. Hill acts innocent, but we have it documented of him trespassing on his property, them voicing that we want to do away with the association because it fits their agenda, even though they voted it into perpetuity. Mr. Wilson here has all the records. It's not conjecture. We don't have mental issues. The only mental issue I have over this is I've been under attack and stress for 9 months, and I am determined to hold those accountable. Whoever's name is on this, I will hold them accountable for all the distress they have put me through, hence my $5 million lawsuit, and I believe Mr. Wilson does. We've also uncovered that Truckee Meadows Fire Rescue, the same people that I was volunteering for and being a good citizen for, rubber stamped the approval for that subdivision, even though we've submitted over the last 3.5 years numerous documents stating that the roads have been not done to grading standards. That's what this is all about. And they have weaponized Washoe County building planning code enforcement. That's about all I have to say. You can give the next 12 seconds to someone else that these people have tried to racketeer. I'll tell you what, the cost of my property is $1.8 million. If you think you're going to racketeer me off my property, you're sadly mistaken.
Thank you.
We have no further public comment in chambers, and on Zoom there are currently no hands raised. Okay, no hands raised via Zoom.
Okay, I'll call for public comment one last time. Does anybody want to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. So I want to remind the board that we are here for possible action, hearing and discussion to affirm, modify, reverse, or remand an administrative hearing officer's hearing order, remanding, modifying a code enforcement violation of Washoe County Code Section 110.306.35B, an outdoor storage of an RV on a vacant parcel with or without an existing principal use. That is why we are here. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Yes.
Peter Gishon for the record. Chad? As I read through all of this, I found 110.310.35 interesting because it allows for the temporary use of the RV or the travel trailer really just if you get a building permit. There's no real mechanism that says you have to pursue building. It's got, 6-month inspections and all these extensions of time, but it seems like this is kind of set up to be abused. Would you agree at all?
You mean that you think it enables someone to live in an RV for an extended period of time without any intent to really do anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the potential for that, for sure. Yeah.
And then I'm curious, you said it didn't matter, but I do question, does the building department separately permit a septic system, or is that part of the building permit for a single-family residence?
I do have David Kelly here in the audience. He could probably provide more detail, but it's my understanding that they will not permit a septic system by itself. It has to be in conjunction, unless there's already a house there and they're replacing the septic system. It has to be submitted in conjunction with a house building permit, and then those move forward together. So once that complete package is received by building, then they route that to health. But David, do you want to provide more detail on that?
And I guess, are they two separate building permit numbers? And does the building official have jurisdiction over a septic permit?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is David Kelly. I'm a supervisor with Environmental Health Services of Northern Nevada Public Health, and I oversee a few programs, but septic systems being one of them. So the short answer is no, the building department does not have jurisdiction over septic systems. Those are governed by regulations that are adopted by the Board of Health. We are one of the multiple agencies that are signatories on a building permit. So when a building permit is submitted, we will receive it and evaluate the septic system based on a few different steps in the process and make sure it meets code and that it's acceptable for the site conditions. When we do not issue a separate permit number, the permit for the building is what we inspect under, and we will not release or sign off on a certificate of occupancy for that building permit until all of the inspections are complete.
Interesting. So it's a different set of rules, but it falls under the same building permit number.
Yeah, I think it's how you manage that. I think it's easier. It's a one-stop shop for people, You also have fire, looking at different code, different parts of the infrastructure for construction of a single-family dwelling.
Okay, and so then, Chad, I suppose, if one only pursued the installation of a septic system under a building permit, would that qualify for the temporary occupancy under 110.310.35?
No, because they would have to have the building permit issued, and like David was just explaining, that they're together. So there's no way that they could have one and not the other, right? So,
okay,
thanks.
I've got a follow-up question for health on that. It's my understanding that he was required to have an engineered septic. Does that mean that engineers need to be involved in this and have an engineering stamp possibly and a plot plan and all that?
Yes, and that would be submitted as part of the building permit. It has to do with site conditions. They did a test trench on that property, and without going into too much detail, the conditions would require an engineered septic system, which is advanced treatment, because the soils present or lack thereof would not treat effluent adequately. So it would be designed and signed by an engineer, and that engineer would be required to also conduct inspections alongside of health.
Now, those inspections, they would have to be initiated by the client, correct?
Yes.
So you guys just don't automatically go out there. There has to be a due diligence by the property owner. He has to call these in and meet with you guys and go over all that, right?
Yep. As with building inspections, they don't go to building department. It does get routed through us, but they call in, give us 24 hours notice, and we'll come out and take a look.
Okay. Do you guys have any records of him requesting anything, or a failure, or a pass, or anything like that?
Yep. So I did look it up before I came down. We conducted 2 inspections in July of 2020. I can pull up the exact dates if you're interested. The engineered septic system that was approved for this property is what's called a T-sand filter. Underneath is a rock-lined trench, and then on top of that would be a sand filter, which is a treatment, a form of treatment. We conducted 1 inspection of an open trench. That's the underlayment trench that would collect the water at the end. And at that time, the trench was, according to my inspector's notes, off contour. We requested that it be moved and fixed. I then went out a couple weeks later. The trench had been moved. The rock was in the trench, and the form for the sand filter. So I don't want to bore you guys details, but before you set the sand and the rest of the system in place, you build a form that you put it in. And so I observed the form and the trench that underlying it completed, and that was the end of it. We never saw the sand, we never saw the distribution, and we never signed off on usage of that system.
So based upon that, it's my understanding that it wasn't done properly. Would that be a correct
I would
comment?
say at this point, what I could comment on is that it wasn't completed. The part, when I went out and conducted that second inspection, they had corrected the first item that we had wanted fixed, and they were moving to the next stages, but we never saw any additional inspections after that.
Okay, so he never called in any more inspections after that?
Correct.
So he just kind of got dropped?
Yes.
And there were several years after that, right?
Yes.
Until now?
And
you can put those pictures down, thank you.
Yeah. So we'd like to be able to track every permit that we have outstanding, but we don't have any record that we went out after that.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what happened here, that's all. All right, does anybody else have any other questions? No? Do we have any discussion on the board on this? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion. I've personally seen and heard that Mr. Belfort has been given quite a bit of time to rectify these situations and to finish this building process. And I don't know what the situations other than COVID were, but they don't appear to me like they were done properly. He has been given extensions, the max amount of extensions according to the law, and therefore I would support the reverse of all of this. I'll take a motion.
For discussion, I was going to say that, Kathy Julian, for the record, I found that the staff's presentation of the rebuttal to the, or the commentary on the hearing officer's decision was persuasive in terms of highlighting the areas where it did not appear to conform with the code. And if one does not like the code, then one should go to the proper authorities and advocate and lobby to change the code.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Don.
Microphone. I'm not on.
You're on.
No. Having been a member of this board for roughly 4 years, it's been the habit of the board to be extremely liberal in granting extensions. And this is no exception to that. Used up all the, without a reciprocation of proper work being done in fulfillment of the extension. And we'll make note of the fact that COVID got in the middle of this thing badly in in the applicant's particular case. But I think we've been very, very patient in the enforcement of the underlying rules and regs, and to the point that it's not, if we've erred, it's been on the side of caution. And I feel very strongly that enough's enough, that we need to reverse this hearing officer's decision and proceed with the 25-day appeal period, and hopefully Mr. Belfort will make good use of that 25 days. But
Excuse me, do I get any rebuttal on this?
No, sir. I'm sorry. I gave you your 15 minutes, and that's when you were supposed to.
You gave him 15 minutes, and now you're going to deny him that right
No,
to come
he
up
had
here?
15 minutes,
He
right?
got more time.
Oh,
What are you going to do about the title? This is ridiculous.
Wait, hang on. One thing I just wanted to add before you make your decision is a year now has passed in this period, which makes it,
You can stand up at the microphone if you would like. I will give you a minute.
Almost a year now has passed.
State your name for the
Jonathan Belfort, for the record. A year has passed, almost a year, since the May 28th. So it's like 10 months. Makes it seem further out. But I got knocked down pretty hard from COVID, and how soon people are forgetting how bad it was and the way it went on and on and on. So basically, it's just the 1.5 year period with 100% inflationary spiral going up. How could a person on limited means be expected to make up for 2.5 years of loss of income? You see my point? That's all I wanted to say.
I see your point, sir. There's also laws that we have to follow, and it appears that the county has been very lenient, and from what I'm hearing and from what I've seen in evidence, and that's what we have to base our decision on, evidence. And that's what I'm basing my decision on. And the rest of the board, I feel that they're basing their decisions on that, whatever their decision may be.
We're just going to take it up in seconds.
Sir, member comment is done.
It's done.
Thank you so much.
I've been very patient with you, sir. I'm trying, okay?
It's going to cost the county a lot of money. This is going federal. I'm going to file lawsuits.
Mr. Chair.
Would you guys like to be escorted out, or do you want to leave?
For $100, you're going to cost the taxpayers, and you're ripping the taxpayers
And you're ignoring all the criminal aspects of
All
this.
right, okay. You guys can leave now. Thank you. If you want to be escorted, we can escort you out. Thank you.
Corrupt Washoe County.
Failing to do duty.
We will have order in this place, please. Thank you.
For $100.
That's all you had to pay.
Mr. Chair, for the record, Don Christensen, and I was interrupted in my discussion. Having said my piece now, I would offer a motion if it's appropriate now to do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Unless Peter has something, go ahead. All right.
I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment reversed the decision of the Administrative Hearing Officer and uphold the violation of WCC 110.306.35, paragraph B. Respondent shall have 25 days to remove the stored RVs and any other items illegally stored on the vacant property. The chair of the Board of Adjustment is authorized to prepare a written order of the decision and file it with the Secretary of the Board of Adjustment, a copy of which shall be served to the appellant.
Chad, is that okay for a compliance plan? Or would you like more added to it?
Chad Giesinger, Planning Manager for the record. No, that's sufficient.
Okay.
Thank you,
great.
Chair.
All right, I'll second this motion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Will you please read the appeal procedure, Mr. Brunswick?
Certainly. Most decisions rendered by the Board of Adjustment are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision.
I'll cover it in this one, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
An appeal of a Board of Adjustment decision that is a appeal of an administrative hearing officer's decision is appealable only to the Second Judicial District Court by filing a petition for judicial review within 25 days.
All right. It's not mine.
I think it's that mic. Will you grab a different mic?
Does this one work? Yeah, there we go. Okay. I don't know what it is. Wow, jinx. Okay, so that closes that. Let's move on to item number 9, chair and board items, future agenda items. Do we have any? No? Okay, request for information from staff. I would like to hear what happens with this one going forward. Number 10, director's report of previous board and adjustment items. Anything, Chris?
Yes. So back in December, the Board of Adjustment heard WSUP 24-0015. This was Bryan Canyon Road ponds and grading.
Yes.
This was denied by the Board of Adjustment and recently heard by the Board of County Commissioners at their February 12th, 2025 hearing. The BCC did overturn that denial and approved the request.
Oh,
and that's all I have.
Oh, wow. All right.
I have a couple additional updates for you
Okay.
on prior matters.
Having a problem with your mic?
Yeah. The pro pony matter, which was before this board long ago,
Right.
was.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
In pro pony Silver Circle Ranch, this board reached took no action because it resulted in a tie vote. The Board of County Commissioners granted the special use permit for pro pony. That was appealed to Second Judicial District Court, and order came down recently dismissing the petition for judicial review. So that special use permit stands. Additionally, this board heard the Callier Single Family Residence special use permit last year, which was the narrow road in Crystal Bay. A appeal was filed with the Board of County Commissioners challenging that special use permit by a neighbor, Victor Elgohary. That was denied by the Board of County Commissioners, and a petition for judicial review was filed. That also has been dismissed. And the last one is the Schmidt matter, which was another appeal of an administrative hearing officer. He did not appeal to the Board of County Commissioners, but instead filed a writ of mandamus in Second Judicial District Court seeking authority to appeal to the Board of County Commissioners, and that also was denied.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of information.
Does that conclude his relief?
It should.
Okay. All right. At this time, I'd like to open up the last general public comment. Do we have any general public comment?
No public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
All right, I'll close that. It is 3:39. We are adjourned.